At the last round of Drift Masters, Freddie put a warning on my dash, so when the car has low fuel pressure, it'll say low fuel pressure. Sometimes you can set a threshold for one of those warnings to come up pretty tight to where it comes up for a very little discrepancy. But just to double check, I pulled out a computer, borrowed it from Jimmy to check out the Link ECU. What you would normally do is you would look at your fuel pressure and you would compare it to your map or your boost. Now, basically how fuel pressure should work is with every pound of boost you add, it adds a pound of fuel pressure. So what you want to look for is these shapes to be the same. Now, if boost is going up and fuel pressure isn't going up, that could be the indication of not having enough fuel pump or maybe having a wiring issue or something that's causing fuel pressure to drop. There's also a feature in here called differential fuel pressure, which is basically a calculation that shows the difference between fuel pressure and boost. That way, if you see any erroneous like spikes or anything on this line, that would tell you that it's not trailing right. Because if you had a bad fuel pump, it is so obvious because you would just see at high boost levels, this differential fuel pressure will just change dramatically. You'll see the shape change, and that's how you can lose an engine. But when you tune a car the proper way using the modeled fueling, what it does is it allows the ECU to actually add injector duty when fuel pressure drops. So even if we were down a fuel pump, I think this car still has enough to where it would compensate. But you would see it clear as day in here. Even though it's running right, you would see that the fuel pressure is doing weird stuff. So sometimes the difference between winning and losing is being able to spot if there is or isn't an issue before there's an issue. But remember what I was explaining before about the differential fuel pressure? You can see now, you see that massive tank? And then you see the same correlation with fuel pressure here versus map in two spots. And here you can see the injectors were able to compensate because the lambda down here stayed on target. But over here is when I was doing a 360. And it was probably at peak load or something. And this right here, this is the lean spike that could cause damage to an engine. So now I can tell Johan, all right, it's worth looking into the fuel system and seeing if something's wrong.